Right, welcome ladies and gents. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. This is the box office roundup. It is now blasted, as a deadline note here, to $529 million worldwide. That's, for all intents and purposes, not bad. Got to move the mic there. Apologies. The drop-off wasn't as bad as average Marvel movies. It's not great, but it's still not as bad as the average Marvel movie. So there is the potential that this film will actually break even. Genuinely. There is the potential there. And also, Mario has now crossed $1.2 billion and has pushed Universal to already hitting $2 billion in 2023 alone. Pretty crazy, actually. Pretty crazy stuff. So let's take a look at this. Hope you're well. If you're new here, hit subscribe. And even if you're just a returning viewer and you're not subscribed, hit that subscribe button. Give the video a like and a share. And just momentarily as well, check out the second channel. I do a podcast with some really interesting people twice a week. And there's a podcast channel, a whole second channel dedicated to it. Linked in the description box. Mistakes, reviews, live archives. Head on over there as well. We have a recurring segment. What dumb shit did Grace Randolph say this week? And it's pure comedy gold. Anyway, so basically, on Monday, Guardians of the Galaxy passed the $300 million mark globally. Now, it has an estimated total of $528.8 million global. Now, in terms of the drop-off, that puts it just above the 50-odd% drop-off in terms of its sort of second week in terms of domestically. So it's 10% off what the average Marvel movie is. So it's done okay. The percentage drop-off is still concerning because that's going to get worse next week. And it already opening up in China, not doing great money in China. Plus they're taking China, Disney's taking China not being great either. It's not horrendous. It's still not good. I think this movie will still struggle, mainly because of what's coming up against it moving forwards. You've got Fast X, for instance. So I think this is interesting. And bearing in mind, these movies have never actually done the numbers that this movie requires to break even. And in terms of the bums on seats, ticket sales, this movie's not done that good because obviously inflation. So can we call it a bomb? I don't know. It's out of all the Marvel movies that could have had legs, this is the one that could have legs and looks to have legs. Still remains to be seen. So, estimated $528.8 million global. Of that, $213.2 million is from domestic. And $315.6 million at the international box office. Now, here's why this is concerning, right? Because, domestically speaking, the Guardians films have never crossed $400 million. And internationally speaking, it's done 315. But what does traditionally very, very well internationally and not great domestically? And by those terms, I mean the States, domestic. Oh, it's Fast X. So where the majority of the money for Guardians of the Galaxy is being generated is internationally. That's actually where Fast X, the film that's opening up this coming week, makes the majority of its money. So this could be a sign of disaster for Guardians of the Galaxy, basically. Now that's just logic, looking at it logically speaking. If they never have crossed $400 million at the domestic box office, and it's already struggling, i.e., it's already hit the over 50% drop-off. Next week it will get worse, so on and so forth. Internationally is where it's making its money. A movie that does traditionally very well internationally is going to be released. This movie might now, spell disaster. So a bit of a shame, because I like the film. I've done a review. I like the film. I think it's a pretty decent film. I think it, I don't know. I didn't hate it anyway. So the $529 million global lands the Guardians gang as the second biggest Hollywood release of the year so far. I mean, that's nothing to be proud of. Overseas, the film was about to pass the final gross of the original Guardians of the Galaxy, $318 million. Should do better than that, though. Again, that's not something to be super proud of. Meanwhile, Chris Pratt is, of course, in the Super Mario Brothers, which now has an estimated overseas total of $675 million, which hits $1.21 billion global. I mean, that's madness. That's absolutely crazy. Really, really, really crazy. So the offshore midweeks for Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 led to a 40% drop-off from opening, which is better than Guardians of the Galaxy. This is offshore, remember? Because if they start talking about its domestic drop-off, it doesn't look as good, which they did have, because I had that article open. And domestically, it wasn't great. Domestically, it had hit a 50-odd% drop-off. And you have it here anyway. They might mention it in this one. So 49% drop-off here post-pandemic because the movie's sopping up all the mom action, but sources say it's not the case, apparently. It's a completely different film aimed at the fanboy demo. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3's second weekend is better than the 55% second weekend holds of the two previous Guardians of the Galaxy. Right, okay, so it hadn't actually broken the 50%. So my bad, apologies there. They had estimated it would hit over 50% drop-off. So 49% drop-off. It's not horrendous. It still puts it in double digits, which isn't good. Because again, if this holds, you're only looking at 30 million, and then was a bust at that point, isn't it, really? So, interesting. And the Three Calls weekend is just $5 million off from Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2's second frame of $65.2 million. And it's roughly $1.7 million off from Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness' second weekend of $61.7 million after a lower than usual MCU summer. Last weekend of $118 million. What's clear is that the A cinema score is showing its mojo. I just think, it's not the A cinema score, it's word of mouth. People are talking good about this film. And it really does go to show is that people weren't talking good about the other films, right? That's the situation. Those films weren't getting good word of mouth at all, in fact. So, is this going to be a bomb? I think this is going to struggle moving forwards now because, it's just shy of 50% at 49% drop off in its second week. You do have, I'm pretty certain it's releasing this weekend, this weekend coming, Fast X. And at that point, that makes most of its money offshore, outside of the US. I think it will struggle. And that's just common sense, and I want this film to do, well, I don't want it to do well. I think it will. I think it should do okay because it's an alright film. But I think it's going to struggle massively. But I'd love to hear your thoughts. What do you guys think? I do this weekly when we start talking about these films. These are interesting roundups. I think realistically speaking, this film is now going to struggle from here. 49 is better than the average of 60, which is what Marvel movies tend to do. But 49% week on, week out isn't great when these movies have to be heavily front-loaded, and it didn't do very well in its opening weekend. So it's crossed $500 million, but it still needs to do about $700 million to break even to then start turning into a profit. I don't know if it can do that. But it may limp its way there. This is the thing. But there is a lot of movies releasing soon. You've got Fast X, then from there, you've got Transformers Rise of the Beasts, and then from there, you've got Flash. Will this movie hold attention enough to break even, let alone turn a profit? I don't know. But I'd love to hear your thoughts. Bearing in mind, Marvel definitely would have wanted more money for this anyway, because they spent a lot of money on this. Like $250 million plus $100 million in marketing. That's a fucking lot of money. That's a lot of money. So, yeah. And those now confused going, well, that sounds like $500 million has broken even. No, because of the theatre takes from these films. Obviously, the theatres have to make money for showing these films. So the studio doesn't take all the money, obviously. That's pretty normal stuff. But anyway, leave your thoughts down below. Cheers, guys. Take care.